On this episode of the Omega Beam, Golden and I discuss the Netflix series Daredevil Season 3. Full speed ahead. Welcome to the Omega Beam number 28. I'm your host, Orrin Merton, and this is another one of the conversations that we did when we didn't have time to podcast. The series Daredevil has been on Netflix for a few years now, and the last season, Season 3, is available for streaming. So if you haven't seen it, be warned, there are spoilers in this discussion. If you have seen it, please enjoy our discussion and join us in a wake for what is a fantastic television series. Let's go. I'm here with Golden to talk about one of the TV shows we watched in its entirety.
You mean that we are going to mourn?
That's right, mourning the loss of one of the great TV shows that we absolutely adored. Daredevil Season 3, 13 episodes, the entire season, and as we found out, that is the only, or the last, I guess, season that we're going to get.
But we can hope
that Disney picks it up on their channel.
Well, maybe not even Disney, but that someone picks up his character and draws them into maybe their show or something.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. You know, it's too bad. I feel like we're already mourning it before we've even talked about how much we enjoyed it. But the news came out so recently that Daredevil was canceled. It's hard to ignore it. But I feel like the casting was so good in Daredevil. You know, I think Charlie Cox just inhabited Matt Murdock, and Daredevil character was fantastic. Deborah Ann Wall was absolutely Karen Page in the best way. Eldon Henson did such a great Foggy Nelson. And I guess when Disney, you know, as these shows are killed and Disney comes out with their own streaming network, they're certainly not going to bring these shows back. They've already said
that they want family friendly, PG-13.
Right. So it's clear they're not going to do something gritty like Daredevil. But
it's too bad they don't have a second streaming service that is for those shows.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, the article that we read hinted that Hulu might be where a bunch of the movies from Fox and everything land, because Hulu will be 60% owned by Disney, so they'll at least be making most of the money. But these actors were so good. If those characters are brought into other Marvel properties, you know, I do understand why they might want to start fresh, like, hey, we have a brand new Daredevil for our brand new movie. But on the other hand, these guys did so well. It would be nice if they kept them.
What number Batman are we on?
Oh, how many?
How many people have played Batman?
Well,
I mean, I'm just kidding. I don't really want you to count it out
I'll
right now.
count them.
No,
I'll start with the 30s serials. I'll start way back.
Okay. Let's just say this. I don't think that Ben Affleck does his best for Batman, nor did I ever believe that Ben Affleck was the best person for Daredevil.
For the best person for Daredevil.
Between Charlie Cox blows it out of the water.
He's a great actor, and he specifically did a great job with this part. And I think Season 3 was really a tour de force for both all the actors and all the writers. I think that one of the problems with the Netflix shows, in my opinion, is that they tend to be series that the story arcs sort of logically live for, I don't know, maybe 6, 8, 9, 10 episodes. But they're 13-episode series, so they always end up with a few episodes that end up as filler or going way slower than they need to go. But I think more than any of the others, possibly excepting The Defenders, which was a kind of container miniseries of the various individual series. But all the individual series, including Daredevil, seasons 1 and 2, I think season 3 really got the pacing right. I think, they still had backstory. They still had episodes where you were mostly learning about, this is what Karen was like. This is what, Dex Poindexter was like. But it didn't feel like the story stopped so we could learn about a character. It felt like this was a necessary and well-paced flashback in the continuing story. So I think they got the pacing right, they got the action right, they got the character interplay right. I mean, these movies have the TV show, the Daredevil shows have just the greatest, stunt cast. I mean, my God, the fighting is always so good. The martial arts are so visceral, and you feel, each punch. I mean, it's just incredibly well put together. And it was a great story, It starts with Daredevil basically saying, I hate everybody, I'm my own, I'm gonna forget being Matt. And it ends with him saying, I want to be Matt.
But I remember watching that with you, and you were like,
he'd never do that.
This is not what he would do.
Yeah. No, and in fact, that's one of my criticisms. You
really like the fact that he always acknowledges his friends, that his friends are there for him.
Yeah, and that is one of my criticisms, that it focuses too much on Matt starting out. You want to give the characters an arc. And so they decided the best arc for Matt Murdock was that he was going to start, I don't want to be around, that I just died, the girl I love died, but I managed to somehow survive it, and I'm bitter, and I'm mean, and I'm mad, and goodbye. And it ends with him coming back to everything and realizing you don't give up living when things go wrong like that. That's when you lean in. You don't push everybody away. And I think the arc, I wish it didn't start where it started. I wish he would never have abandoned his friends the way he did. But the flip side is it did make the arc very satisfying when at the end he was Matt again. That he was sitting at the table with his good friends, laughing and enjoying life and being glad to be both Matt Murdock and Daredevil with people who knew him for who he was, for what he's like, and accepted him.
I don't think things are quite smoothed over the way that they need to be or should be with Maggie.
No, but, how do you deal with the mother who never introduced herself to you for, 30-some years of your life?
She did have very good reason, and mothers are supposed to do what's best for their children, and she did what was best for her child.
What she thought was best.
Yes.
Because, as she said later, now they know more about postpartum depression, but at the time, and I get that, and they're trying to make it plain that she didn't just say, ha ha, goodbye, kid. That this was something that broke her in two, but she felt was the only thing to do.
And Wilson Bethel, such a great performance.
Oh, as Dex.
Yeah, as Dex / Bullseye.
Right.
I mean, very well done.
Well, speaking of that, you already mentioned Ben Affleck in the ill-fated Daredevil movie. Colin Farrell played Bullseye in that movie. It was one of those so over-the-top, overacted roles. You could not take him serious. It's like he was obviously Colin Farrell acting in every scene because he was just chewing the scenery and not being the character. And Wilson Bethel as Dex manages to both be a very, emotional, histrionic character who's obviously going through a breakdown, but at the same time, he does it in such a way that he loses himself in the character.
It's almost like you can actually see the Wilson Fisk character pulling his strings.
I know.
And just maneuvering him through the season. And
of course, we're talking about actors. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio was such a fantastic Wilson Fisk / Kingpin. And by the way, speaking of things for the fans and the fanboy moments, in the comics, in the Daredevil and the Spider-Man comics, Wilson Fisk is always called Kingpin. He's rarely called by his name. Now, I had read that when they did the first season, Wilson Fisk as a character was owned by Marvel, but the name Kingpin was still part of Sony's Spider-Man world that they didn't fully share yet. And so they never called him Kingpin. And so there was a moment in season 3 where they said, let's all call him by his code name, Kingpin. And me and all the other fanboys just went, yes, the Kingpin is here. It was a little thing that other people would just think, oh, okay, now they're calling him by his code name, whatever. But the people who knew that the character was Kingpin, we were like, yeah! So, anyway, that was a fanboy moment for me.
Yeah, no, I'm going to miss it.
I'm really going to miss it. Daredevil is one of my favorite characters. So.
I was really hooked the first season, and I was telling everyone about, oh, yeah, you need to watch this, you need to watch this.
Yeah.
And people said, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, no, that was really good. But it will be missed. And it's a shame because there needs to be awesome TV like this.
There does, and it's always, forgetting about just the fact that it's a superhero show. It's just a great show. And another great show was Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones has not been canceled yet because Jessica Jones season 3 is supposed to hit next year. But I'm certain the same fate will befall it, that it will air, people will love it, and it will be quietly eliminated. Like all the Netflix series are going.
We can hope that someone will pick it up and play with it.
Right. That maybe because Jessica Jones
Lucifer still lives.
Yeah, on Netflix, interestingly enough. But that's a DC property, not a Marvel property. Yeah, speaking of Jessica Jones, her series isn't quite as gory and gritty as Daredevil, so maybe Disney will pick that one up on their channel. Maybe that's the one they'll pick up, and they'll keep the other characters alive, like just as occasional guest stars. Who knows?
Maybe.
You never know. I don't think so. I think they're all gone, but we'll see. Certainly The Punisher, whose season 2 is airing next year on Netflix, certainly The Punisher will not be coming to the Disney streaming network because his whole thing is killing people. That's not something that the House of Mouse, I think, really wants to deal with.
There's a lovely lyric in a song that I like. The world is turning Disney and there's nothing you can do. We're trying to walk like giants and we're wearing Pluto's shoes. Which, if you think about it, Pluto doesn't wear shoes.
Right.
But, it's still, I'm just reminded of that.
Yeah. Well, it was a great season. It was a great series. For those of you who have not seen any of the Daredevils, I could not recommend them more highly.
It's okay to binge.
Yeah,
this is a good way to binge. Just don't binge on food while you're binging on the TV.
Yeah. Health advice from Golden. It's probably good advice, too. All right. Thank you, Golden.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/28. If you liked this episode, please leave a review in the Apple Podcasts app, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have any comments or questions, suggestions for panels, stuff you'd like us to do, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.